All right, we should be live now. Yeah, one thing I want to do is get our gate.
So that way I don't have to say the wrong thing.
Yeah, 1360, line 27, is that right? Yes, it is.
What day is today? 27th.
All right. All right, here we are, Northern Neck, J6 Vigil. It is September 27th, 2024. It is day 1,360 since January 6th. And as usual, we'll start with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Try to share a little information that we've learned. And then about probably 7:30 or something like that. It's 7 o'clock now, about 7:30, we'll have some callers come in from the DC Gulag and maybe some others. So there we go. Heavenly Father, as always, please watch over the children and help them to understand why their parents and loved ones are not with them, and give them the wisdom and the understanding to cope with that, and give the people that are suffering through this travesty of arrests, being taken away from, and give them the courage and the strength to persevere, because they will persevere and they will get through with your help. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So did you try to take your arm off?
Barnacles. Yeah, barnacle problem.
Yeah, how about those go?
They're painful. Yeah,
Yeah.
barnacles are
And
painful.
there's almost no way to escape. You
Cannot
can minimize it,
near
but you can't.
barnacles. It's bloody.
Yeah, and it's, barnacles are nasty. Any that, yeah, you can get some pretty serious infection from that. So hydrogen peroxide is the key. Spray bottle of that. If you work around the water, you know, if you get scraped against a dock or something like that, anything, cuts in the water, especially out here in this area of the world, you need to clean that up as quick as you can.
You always wear gloves, but you know, what about your arms?
Yeah, that's right. That's the same thing. I was wearing gloves, but the arms are not
legs,
protected.
You know, he gets
Yeah.
scraped with the oyster cages and.
Yep. All right, we had a lot of interesting things happening. I guess a couple things I just need to get organized here for a second. Do you have anything you want to start with, Maurice? You had some things you were just talking about.
Well, yeah. From multiple sources, between Tom and myself, we've heard warnings that it's time to stock up on key supplies, food, water, because when the power goes out, money, cash is good, believe it or not. Cash is really good. You want to have some cash on hand, but don't let anybody know you got it, because when other people don't have food, and you can only fire one weapon at a time, so having a bunch of them means you need to share. But the bottom line is, from credible sources, to include one FBI whistleblower and somebody else who shall remain nameless right now, but the point is that everything we've been watching for the last several years is exactly how you tear down and rebuild a country. We've been watching it. We've had a lot of propaganda coming from all kinds of different directions. If you think you believe something, there's a really good possibility that you're wrong. And that's part of the program, is you're supposed to be wrong on almost everything. And so when they pull the plug, because it doesn't take much, we've got a centralized power grid. When they pull the plug, the wells won't work, your computers won't work, there won't be any communications, there won't be anything. Does it sound familiar? So stock up. It's really kind of important, and make sure your friends and neighbors are covered, and make sure that they understand that they have to reciprocate that. So that's what we've been hearing, and that's what we've been looking at, but that's not the only thing. So I'm gonna let Tom go on to a next topic. There's more, I'll save it for
Let me
later.
stay on that topic for a second because I want to add to it. So Marcus Allen is the FBI whistleblower
Right.
that was testifying in front of the Weaponization Committee this week. And he just blew everybody's socks off. Here's another guy that got drugged through the system, a whistleblower that is supposed to be protected by leadership within the FBI for pointing out problems. And as he stated in his testimony, again, to the Weaponization Committee this week, his job was to monitor publications and alternate news sources and things like that and report back. And he was basically telling his superiors that, you know, we need to take that seriously. So for 27 months, I believe that's right, 27 months, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
He lost his security clearance, wasn't able to work. They tried he wasn't able to get another job, wasn't being paid by the FBI, basically had to, dip into his savings and everything else, just like so many of these others. And finally, the good graces of somebody, he got that restored. But he said, this is my last formal act as an FBI agent. I'm done. I'm done with this.
He kind of had to. One of the other things I noticed about his testimony is he described the tactics and techniques that management within the FBI are doing to bring the lower Indians in line. The amount of coercion that's going on there on the 7th floor is crazy. They're literally threatening family. They're threatening future. They're threatening everything to get the FBI worker bees, the regular on the street agents, to cooperate with them. They had to build that up over a long period of time. How do you do that to the worker bees of an organization like the FBI? That is amazing. And this is what I was getting to earlier. We're talking nation state propaganda. This is not just a bunch of clowns out there talking. And they're good at it. They're really good at it. We know who the players are. But like I was saying, if the FBI can do this internally, imagine all of us out here who don't have a clue what's going on with the day-to-day operations of the FBI, the CIA, MOUSE, whatever. The average person has no clue how those folks operate. They have no idea what the tools are. They have no idea the reach that one person inside those organizations can have to wreak havoc on an arbitrarily chosen individual's life. And you got to pay attention to this, folks, because it's the enemy at the gate. They will shoot their own. I remind those of you that are old enough to remember of Kent State, our government will shoot its own people.
All right, along those same lines, the Whitmer Fednapping case. I think most people that probably tune into the J6 situation are aware of it, but we know that there was the supposed attempt on the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. And in reality, what happened was 13 individuals were arrested. I think 4 of them are still spending time in jail. And it turns out that there were embedded FBI agents that were actually instigating and creating the situation to begin with.
And oh, by the way, they happened to be at the Capitol on January 6th, those same guys.
Isn't that amazing? So I just saw yesterday that there's a movie that is coming out. It's called Kidnapped and Killed. And you can go on YouTube and sign up for K, the letter K, and A-N-D, K, film. So at K&K Film on YouTube, and you can watch for updates. They're in the final stages of preparing this. They've got some short clips they're ready to put out to try to get attention, but they've got to raise funds to finish all the production. And it's, you know, as I know from speaking to the people at the 1A Film Festival, there's a lot of work that goes into creating these documentaries. And you know, it's not just the initial work and making the recordings and interviews and so on, but it's all the editing and all the work that goes into creating those really cool films that we like to watch that teach us so much. So K&K Film, again, Kidnap and Kill, about the Whitmer Fednap case is coming out. So there again, FBI had deep fingers, deep involvement in that.
So, slightly different topic. Earlier today, you know, apparently our president was going to do 2 rallies or gatherings or whatever we're calling them today after the notion of a couple of assassination attempts. But in between them, there was an interview that took place, and it was with Donald Trump and President Zelensky from the Ukraine, standing side by side and talking about how we're going to bring an end to the Ukraine war. And they were both looking at each other cordially, and all I could think of was, it was the perfect phone call. That's all I could think of. It was the perfect phone call. But there was a whole lot of opportunities, and your imagination can run wild if you're relatively aware of all of the goings on that have been happening over the last several years. You might be able to glue together a few pieces and come up to, even if it's an erroneous conclusion, that there are things happening behind the scenes that there's an awful lot of us that can't really recognize on their face without doing an awful lot of digging and being helped. To that end, for example, New York City's mayor, Eric Adams, has been indicted, and within hours after Eric Adams gets indicted, his staff is starting to resign. You got to ask the question, what's up with that? So there's a lot of things happening out there, and at face value, it looks like it's a lot of good news. I point you in the direction of P. Diddy for more good news. There's an awful lot of folks that are basically publicly shaking in their shoes. They truly are, because he's got the goods. He's got the black book. He's an Epstein player, a big one. And there's pictures and tapes and videos, and he's planning on testifying in a way that he expects to reduce his sentence, which is a tacit admission of guilt. But so there are a lot of things going on, but be careful, because you should expect that there will be good news just before a fall. So wait for the other shoe, always.
Yeah, and that's a great one to bring into it, Maurice, which is the P. Diddy thing. It's maybe even bigger than the Epstein story in the end. Yeah. And I got to give a shout out to Liz Crokin and everybody else who has, well, her specifically, who's been fighting this fight against the, child pedophilia rings from day one, and it must feel a little bit like finally people are catching up, but it takes a while. It takes a little bit of time to get people to understand things, and it takes enough of things happening. So let's get into J6 a little bit. I'll start with this. This is a personal story in that last week when I was in Washington, D.C. for James Grant's sentencing, I met a gentleman named Rockne Earls. It's R-O-C-K-N-E, Rockne Earls, E-A-R-L-E-S. He's of New Mexico. And he was in Washington, D.C. to appear in court for sentencing, or I'm sorry, for a plea agreement. And so he had been out, all this time, and he was remanded into custody. So he didn't know if that was going to happen. He had his bags packed, ready to leave town, but also had a contingency plan with his attorney if that didn't happen. I got to spend a good bit of time talking to him the morning of and even the evening before. Sounds like a wonderful guy. He's actually quite intelligent man, and he was a special forces individual. Another story, another profile of many of the J6ers who have military backgrounds, very patriotic people who know what's going on. And Rockne, I do believe, was in physical altercations with law enforcement, so I'll just read a little bit about it. I did not get to look up NPR stuff today in time, so I don't know if he's listed on there. I would think that he is, if you have a chance, Maurice. But
What was his name?
Rockne Earls, Earles.
Not on today's list.
Okay, interesting. So this was dated. This was the arrest documents. This is on the DOJ website. This is way back in April of last year. But here's what they put out then. A New Mexico man has been arrested on felony charges, including assaulting a law enforcement officer for his actions during the breach of the Capitol on January 6th. Excuse me, as usual, his actions and the actions of others disrupted a joint session of the U.S. Congress convened to ascertain the count of the electoral votes related to the presidential election. So again, let's just throw it all out there. Assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers, civil disorder, felonies, and misdemeanor charges of entering, remaining, and so on. So anyway, I guess why this struck me is we know there's continuing to arrest people and charge people. Here's another man that knew all this time for over 3 years that he was going to face this day in court. And he did, and he got what they're getting everybody else, which is no. We're not going to let you go. We're going to bring you in, and we're going to make you suffer through this. And again, the process is the punishment. I don't know who coined that phrase, but it's on point. The process is the punishment. So he's looking at potential, serious amount of time because of the actual physical altercations that he was involved in. I want to just give a shout out to Barry Ramey. Were you going to talk about that at all tonight?
No,
Okay.
I printed that out for distribution.
So Barry Ramey, there was a article in the Gateway Pundit that his fiance posted, and this was on September 23rd of this past week. FCI Miami took new blood work as part of the requirements to renew his vitamin D supplements. Barry had been through so much during his incarceration after January 6th, everything from being stabbed in the face, inedible bug-infested food, withholding his mail for weeks on end, unjustified isolations and solitary confinement, and the list goes on. He's been at FCI Miami for over a year, but they've not treated him very well, and what's happening now may be the most egregious thing to date. When he was held at USP Lewisburg prior to Miami, they took blood work and prescribed him vitamin D supplements based upon the results. At the end of this year, FCI Miami took new blood work as part of their requirement to renew his vitamin D supplements. It's now 8 months later, and after many medical requests, a doctor at FCI Miami saw him and gave him the results of his blood work from back in January. It took 8 months to get the results of the test, and the results are terrifying. Barry's thyroid is not functioning properly, his cholesterol is high, uric acid levels are high, and he's at a very high risk of heart complications. How inhumane, irresponsible, and medically unprofessional can they be? They were suggesting several medications. Now, 8 months later, completely horrifying. To top it off, after several months, Barry sent in requests to see the doctor with no response. He's got back pain, no response. Made multiple requests to refill his vitamin D, no response. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but definitely look it up on Gateway Pundit, Barry Ramey. His fiance actually in that article posts several of the request forms that were turned in and had no response, like 8 or something like that over time. So thank goodness for the people like Chris Quaglin who document everything, because that's the only way we're going to fix this mess is by documenting it. The thing that she sums up the article with is she speaks about somebody else. Let's not forget Julio Becerra, another J6er Barry was friends with at FCI Miami. Earlier this year, Julio spent 2 months trying to be seen by a doctor. He was finally sent to the hospital. The family was not allowed to see him, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 gastric cancer. Weeks later, Julio was released compassionately, yet he struggled for his life, spending most of his time fighting in the hospital, and in just a few weeks, he passed away on Father's Day, leaving behind his 3 children and their mother, who was his childhood sweetheart. Had Julio received the medical attention he requested when he requested it, could he have had better odds? So, that's a serious piece of it. I mean, so many of these people we talk to are luckily healthy, but the ones that have serious conditions, oh my gosh.
It's like a death sentence.
Yeah.
And this is what we talk about. This is the kind of thing that, if not for the J6 hostages, who would have brought this to light? It's happening, and it has been happening. And if, as everybody can recall, back in the day, we didn't give much thought to what goes on inside prisons. We truly didn't as a people. That's not something that our culture would do. But now that we've got these J6 hostages in there and we're all paying attention to what's going on, the atrocities that are embedded in the system, they're embedded in the system nationwide. It doesn't matter where you go. There are things way above and beyond what the Constitution requires for incarceration. Don't misunderstand. There are bad people in there, and special care needs to be kept in mind when dealing with those people. But the intention of imprisonment is the removal of liberty. We don't need to have things happen like used to happen down there in North Carolina back in the Civil War, when we would put people behind log-built fences and starve them to death. We're supposed to be beyond that. That's not part of the deal. Violent people are violent people, and they're sick people, and they need to be dealt with appropriately. But when we've got all these guys with misdemeanors and they're being sentenced to years in prison for misdemeanors that the rest of us would probably write a check for and walk away and say, thanks, Judge. That's not the way it's happening. These guys are targeted. It's all deliberate. It's engineered, and if it's engineered, then it's definitely on purpose.
You got something?
Well, I was going to talk about. We do have a little bit of good news.
Can you wait for that?
Sure.
Only because I want to stay on the same topic. So the topic that I have is I ran across an X posting for something called the PJ Innovation Lab, Prison and Jail Innovation Lab, and this is something put out by someone down at the LBJ Law School at the University of Texas in Austin, I think. And they've been advocating for prison reform for quite some time. And so we've talked about that a little bit at different times here about other folks that have been fighting this fight for a long, long time. I want to really work on that with these folks, and I'm trying to reach out and see if we can connect to draw some connections, and I'll come back to the rest of that piece and let you go ahead.
Well, just my usual stuff, but the first thing is we know that James Grant did have a sentencing last week, and as a result, he is home right now. He's out of prison. He didn't go to the halfway house. He is home in North Carolina with his family, so that's all good news, and everybody should be happy.
Great news.
And we just going to go through the upcoming sentencings that are happening, and the list is getting lower, shorter. I haven't checked to make sure that these are still accurate, but as of last week, Michael Oliveras is having his sentencing October 3rd, Joseph Hutchison October 15th, Robert Turner October 18th, Greg Purdy October 18th, that's uncle and nephew. And then we go into November, so let's see. And then David Dempsey's in Philadelphia, Victor Dennison, I believe he's still in Philadelphia, I don't think he's home yet. And Brian Jackson and Andrew Taki, they're on the move. We have no idea where they are right now, but we'll get back to that.
Where were they last?
They were in Philadelphia. They're on the.
So when were they moved? Just within the last couple of days?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they don't say until they actually get to their destination.
And how long are they dark? Is it just a couple of days, a week, or what?
Sometime,
Point A to point B.
with Dempsey, I think it was Dempsey. He was like in the black zone for like a month, and then he showed up in Philadelphia. So I think it just depends. So that's it.
Well, thanks for that update.
Early voting started.
Yeah, early voting started this Monday here in Virginia. Here, you got more?
No, just early voting.
All right, I want to go back to the Prison and Jail Innovation Lab. Their website is PJIL, Prison Jail Innovation Lab, PJIL.LBJ for Lyndon B. Johnson, .UTEXAS. So you can just type in PJIL. Their website opens up, Rethinking Incarceration. The Prison and Jail Innovation Lab is a policy resource center at the LBJ School of Public Affairs that serves as a catalyst to ensure the safe and humane treatment of people in custody, and that cultivates the next generation of justice policy leaders. There's a Death in Custody conference coming up. There's the National Research Center for Correction Oversight. The Prison and Jail Innovation Lab I've talked about has launched. So there's quite a lot of things on here. Cruel and unusual punishment. Can America's prisons and jails change, and if so, how? I mean, I'm going to spend a lot of time in this, and I just came across the last couple. Got on the calendar is a film screening and panel discussion coming up on October 7th. It's called The Box, 27 Years in Solitary, and it was filmed in 2023. Again, Monday, October 7th. So you can find that on their website, I'm sure, PJIL. Film screening and panel discussion on solitary confinement, also known as The Shoe, also known as The Hole, whatever.
I remember when we were made aware of what the SHU actually stood for and how they had actually incorporated different words for special housing unit rather than the hole. You're going in the hole, dude. No daylight for days.
More than days.
Yeah.
Weeks,
months. And it's completely arbitrary. We've got one J6er who has issues in his BOP location. There used to be a piece of tape in the hallway where he was walking that was a demarcation of a particular location that you had to stop at the tape line. The tape was gone. There was no way to know that he crossed that line. And they put him away for, I don't know, what was it, a couple weeks or a couple months?
You're talking about Todd?
Yeah.
He actually didn't he actually didn't go in the hole. He had his communications taken away for 60 days, and which will be ending the middle of October. But he called it, he crossed the invisible line.
Really?
And they took away his communications. Couldn't talk to his family, couldn't have visitation, but he could still email and get mail. But he didn't go in the hole. But they are really buckling down with taking away privileges from everybody. I mean, I had to probably keep a log: who's going, who's coming, who's in the hole, who has restrictions on their communications. Chris Quaglin he's going to have communication restrictions starting tomorrow for 60 days. He'll get out right before Thanksgiving. That's just, he won't be in the hole. He'll be just no email and no phone. Just, again, the mail.
I think one of the strong areas where we could find a way to improve our imprisonment system is oversight. You know, there's a real problem in the environment. You've got a hostile environment, toxic, and they have a very difficult time keeping the employees that they can hire. And so you can imagine that the ones that stick around are probably not the kind that you want there. But at a higher level, from a management, the oversight is almost non-existent. Oh, by the way, would you actually trust another government bureaucracy to have oversight over this government bureaucracy? That's not the way this needs to work. We actually this is where we, the people, can start picking up the shovel and digging the path that makes this country right again. Because we need citizen oversight, because a bureaucracy doesn't care about the flag or voting or anything else. It just wants. Everybody needs to be thinking on that particular point and get involved. The states, we could all identify individual facilities that are more egregious than others, but at the end of the day, the laws that they follow, the policies that they follow, and in many cases create, that's coming from the state level. And that's where the focus needs to be if we are to change the system.
So again, I'm going to just put this up in front here for folks to see. This is the film I mentioned, The Box, 27 Years in Solitary, on Monday, October 7th. And you can find that just by going to Prison and Jail Innovation Lab, or just PJIL, look it up, and that's a good spot. We really do need to continue to work on this, and that's one of the things I think a lot of the J6ers are going to help with, having lived through those experiences and saying, what, this is how people get treated in this place? So yeah, that's important. I'm hoping for some calls here shortly. I'll give you a couple more things and then I'm out for a minute. This is a piece I came across. Again, I don't know how I find these sometimes. It's through X feeds or whatever the case may be. I don't know, follow me on X, Tom Jeffries, just look me up. I don't think there's many of me out there, but I don't post a lot, but I try to post things related to J6, election integrity, that kind of stuff. Medical freedom, well, maybe there's a few of those kinds of things, but try not to do a lot. But I try to only send what's important out. This came through a source called The Daily Muck. You heard of it? The Daily Muck? Mm-hmm. Okay. So this was an article from July 29th of this year, so it's a little older, but says CO's sentenced for violating inmate civil rights in bathroom beatdown case. So COs are correction officers, for anybody who doesn't know. 7 corrections officers, including a sergeant who watched, are in trouble after the assault of a handcuffed, nonviolent inmate in a prison shower room. In June 2024, former Kentucky Corrections Sergeant Eric L. Nantel was sentenced of supervised release for failing to intervene and prevent the assault of an inmate, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. Court documents indicated that 48-year-old Eric Nantel was supervising a routine prisoner escort during his time as a sergeant at the Eastern Kentucky Correctional Complex, when 3 officers assaulted a nonviolent inmate. Nantel watched on from a doorway as the officers repeatedly kicked and punched the inmate in the head and back before leaving the scene of the assault while it continued. 2 of the involved officers were members of the prison's internal affairs department, according to the press release. Eastern Kentucky supervisors and Kentucky State Police detectives opened an investigation within hours of the assault being reported by the inmate, said prosecutors. Eric Nantel proceeded to take part in a cover-up scheme to conceal the truth from the EKCC, which is again the jail, from the state police and the FBI. Accounts from the DOJ show that the state of Kentucky found him guilty of 2 counts of obstruction of justice for misleading investigators and 1 count of making false statements to the FBI, to go along with 1 count of deprivation of civil rights. 6 other officers pled guilty to their roles in the assault and subsequent cover-up back in March of 2024. Randall Dennis, James Banish, Jeffrey Havens were sentenced to 60, 27, and 15 months respectively for the assault and cover-up. Randy Nichols, prison sentences, and 24 months of supervised release, according to an earlier DOJ press release. 3 of these officers went on to testify against Eric Nantel. So that's a good thing to hear, that people are being held accountable for that kind of treatment. But I think that's maybe just a tip of the iceberg sort of thing.
I guess there are a couple of public service announcements. Early voting started in Virginia on September 20th, so get out and vote. Maurice and I did that last week. So vote. So that started. On October 11th, the Northern Neck Patriots are sponsoring 2nd year anniversary of the J6 Prison Vigil. And that's going to be over at the Northern Neck Regional Jail, which is on 3908 Richmond Road in Wausau, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Sorry about my accent. I know he's gonna. October 11th from 7 to 9, and then the next day we're going to have, not we, but the Republican committees sponsoring a Make America Glorious Again Trump rally. It's now or never. Join us at the Rally for America, and that's on October 12th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. It's $20 per person at the gate, and you get free hot dogs and other soft drinks, and you can buy wine. And the address for that is, where is that? It's not here.
Well,
Do we know that is?
It's in Lottsburg, Virginia. So
Lottsburg, Virginia. So look it up. Republican Committee, October 12th from 2 to 5.
I got a little bit more to add to that early voting thing. Turns out that early voting might be as far as we want to go, because kind of looks like the postal union is encouraging people to resist Trump. Apparently, the postal union sends out letters calling Trump an existential threat. Now, this is a government union. I don't know, for all you who don't necessarily know how government unions work, they don't really do anything much. But when they do so on behalf of all of the employees in that particular section, and this is for all of the employees at the Postal Service, and they have declared that Donald Trump is an existential threat and must be stopped. This can't happen. And so the bottom line is what I'm trying to say is mail-in voting is at risk. Fire your rounds doing early voting. Don't do the mail-in voting just yet.
What was the other union that just endorsed the Kamala Harris campaign? Wasn't it the IRS union?
Yeah. You know, and that's where we get into a problem, because it's a fine line. You know, you're talking about a union versus a real true government entity, but they're still representing all of those federal employees. There's a Hatch Act issue here somewhere. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out, but it seems like there's a Hatch Act problem there. And it's kind of disgusting, but you know, one of the things I noticed is that a lot of this stuff that we see originates from small groups, not big groups, but they're small groups that have a very big megaphone. They have the reach. They've got the media on their side. They've got, well, like I said, the megaphone. Like Dave from X22 says, they've got the megaphone. We've still working to take it away from them. But we need the cooperation of other people. And there's a lot of people that if they would just look at a different book, they might find out that the story is in fact different than what they're seeing. It's tough.
Well, the noise is going to get even louder as we go. What are we, 40 days out, something like that now? So, yeah, something less than that.
Right, October's coming.
Yep.
Surprise.
All right. One other thing here. Julie Kelly, I've followed her for quite a long time. She is one of the first people to report on the January 6th situation, I believe, on January 6th, if not the day after. But she's been in some controversy as well of late, but there are people weighing in on both sides. But I'm starting to land on the side of it that whatever her motivations were, you know, originally, she saw that this was wrong, what they were doing, and she really was trying to get the word out. So, great post that she put out on September 26th. And I think, yeah. So this is her Substack, and she's actually putting a guest column out here. But her title is called "In the Aftermath of the SCOTUS ruling that overturned DOJ's most common felony against J6ers, the DOJ is using an antiquated law to keep punishing Trump supporters." So I'm referring to the 1512C charge, which the Supreme Court this summer overruled as being not applicable to the January 6 cases because it was an Enron error financial accounting statute that was put in place to punish people who were destroying documents while they were being investigated by Congress. That's the simplest way to summarize the 1512C, how it was set up and what it was originally used for. So the DOJ took that and said, well, they were disrupting official proceedings because they were trying to survive votes, so it's a 20-year sentence. Let's grab that and let's use it on these people. Supreme Court luckily said, no, you can't do that. Here, this is the post by David W. Fisher, a Maryland and D.C.-based criminal defense attorney and a senior partner at Fisher at Putzie, PA. Most recently, Fisher defended January 6 defendant Thomas Caldwell, who was acquitted on seditious and other conspiracy charges. He starts out, if at first you don't succeed, try again. That's what Attorney General Merrick Garland's Department of Justice is doing in their overzealous prosecution of January 6 defendants. In June, the Supreme Court in the United States v. Fisher effectively nuked hundreds of obstruction of Congress charges against January 6 defendants, ruling that a post-Enron statute, 18 U.S.C. 1512, designed to punish document destruction, did not apply to Capitol Hill protests gone wild. Nonetheless, obsessed with targeting Trump supporters, the DOJ is now charging multiple multiple defendants with a Civil War era statute. A Civil War era statute. 18 U.S.C. 372, which punishes up to 6 years in prison those who intimidate officers of the United States from their posts. The DOJ charges that J6ers conspired to chase members of Congress from Capitol Hill in violation of Section 372. Once again, the DOJ is unfairly prosecuting J6ers under a statute that does not apply to their conduct. Title 18 U.S.C. 372 punishes conspiracies to prevent by force, intimidation, or threat any person from accepting or holding any office, trust, or place of confidence under the United States, or from discharging any duties thereof, or to induce by like means any officer of the United States to leave the place where his duties as an officer are required to be performed. The DOJ's position is that members of Congress hold the offices that were in the statute and are the officers of the United States that are covered by Section 372, and accordingly that J6ers can be prosecuted for allegedly causing their evacuation from Capitol Hill. The DOJ is obviously wrong from both a historical and statutory construction standpoint. So here's the history of it. It was enacted during the Civil War. In April 1861, Confederate soldiers and sympathizers began forcibly seizing federal property within the southern and border states, chasing Union soldiers, Fort Sumter, for example, postmasters, custom house managers, and other federal officials from their posts. Congress quickly responded by passing a series of laws that included what is now Section 372. The obvious purpose of Section 372 was to protect those officers of the United States, a term of art used in the Constitution, which applies to those individuals who hold federal jobs in the government thanks to the Appointments Clause. Members of Congress, however, are not constitutional officers of the United States. So members of Congress are not officers of the United States is widely accepted among constitutional scholars. As the Supreme Court observed in Bowsher v. Sinar, which struck down portions of the 1980s Gramm-Rudman Act, no person who is an officer of the United States may serve as a member of Congress. Additionally, members of Congress do not hold an office. And I'm not going to go further into this, but you can kind of see what they've done. They've twisted and they've turned. They found an old statute and they said, well, we can turn this into it. What I don't understand yet is how they're taking that and applying it to individuals, if these are new charges that they're utilizing on new victims, or if they're trying to use that on ones who had their 1512C charges overturned.
You know, if it's a new charge, you can recharge people that have already gone through the system because it's new.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary, but
We'll have to get some
Yeah.
specifics on that on an individual basis, but yeah, I'll read through this some more, but go ahead.
it just strikes me that it's as plain as the nose on my face that they're bending and twisting and contorting laws to achieve a goal rather than to achieve justice. It's that old Robert Mueller phrase, show me the man, I'll give you a crime. That's the way that works. And so you've got a pool here of, they wanted to arrest a total of 2,000, which is arbitrary in and of itself, but they said it by the end of the term, the Biden term. And I don't know why they didn't pick 3,000, maybe 10,000. Clearly they could do it if they wanted to. All they got to do is just print the paper and sign it.
Because they knew there was a large part of them were confidential human sources, and so they had to be careful how many they were going to go after, right?
You don't say.
So to summarize, one of the unfortunate aspects of the lawfare that has been unleashed against Donald Trump and his supporters has been the misuse of federal criminal statutes. Section 372 was enacted with a very specific purpose: to protect commissioned officers in charge of various federal outposts throughout the United States, especially in southern states. Additionally, the Supreme Court has made clear that criminal statutes that use the term office or officer of the United States do not apply to individuals other than commissioned presidential appointees. As members of Congress were not covered in Section 372's language, the DOJ's use of this statute against J6ers is a miscarriage of justice.
It's a gross miscarriage of justice, and it's an abuse of authority. It's disgusting. You know, the gloves are going to come off at some point. The curtains are going to rise, and the entire stage is going to be exposed. But, and I don't mean to use the theatrical references, but they're appropriate. You've got the entire J6 event that was pre-planned and filmed. We know now that to have the J6 inquiry, they actually hired a Hollywood producer to set it all up so that we have all of these court cases, and it's noteworthy to reiterate what we said here several months ago, and that is that, you know, in a district where the conviction rate was 64%, suddenly when it comes to J6, it's 100%. How does that work? How is it that suddenly you have competent prosecutors, and I've been in the room with them, in the courtroom, they're not. So how does this all work? It's a show. It's pre-planned, but the people that are on the stage aren't necessarily volunteering to be doing that. When you go to the Capitol to issue redress for grievances, your First Amendment rights, you don't expect that you're going to have to go to prison for it. That's what you do when you're at war. You go up against the enemy, they capture you, they put you in prison. It kind of does look like a war from that perspective. And in fact, when they use this law over here, it predominantly, when it was originally written, it predominantly was applicable to military officers and their appointments, because that late great unpleasantness, until this last 10 and 15 years, it was part of the culture down here below the Mason-Dixon line. So they would charge off and try to get rid of the scoundrels out of their community. And so they made a law against it. But this is too well planned, too well choreographed. None of this is an accident. It's not arbitrary.
The key word you said it is lawfare, and that's what they're up to. Is we're going to find a way to get you, because they claim that at least 1 in 4 Americans has committed some sort of felony in their lives, and all they need to do is find it. I'm going to give a little book plug again to a separate issue from J6. This book was called Justice Denied by a gentleman named Howell Woltz. And in 2006, Howell Woltz was a businessman who happened to have a residence in North Carolina and business overseas. But he was literally kidnapped by the FBI. His wife was taken into custody and used as leverage against him. And in the end, he was forced to take a plea deal to rescue her and get her out of prison. And he spent 87 months, 9 years, in jail for a crime that he didn't really commit, And so, yeah, that's exactly what you do when the system is rigged against you. When they want to come after you and get you, that's what they're going to do. So it's not just, this is not new here with J6. It's happened, and it's happened over and over again. And go back to what I was talking about before with the Prison and Jail Innovation Lab and other resources where you've got a lot of people that are in jail that are wrongly serving sentences. Some of them don't even know why they're in jail. Unfortunately, they don't have the resources. They don't have the education necessarily to know exactly what they're up against. They just know this is what's happened, and there they are. So we cannot let this go.
So that's another flaw in the system that you just highlighted. The average person does not have the resources to take on the government when rights versus bureaucratic policies starts to create friction. The government will go out there and arrest a guy. They'll assemble a team of 10 or 12 attorneys to sit on one side of the courtroom, and here's this guy that can barely put clothes on his back sitting on the other side by himself if he doesn't have anything other than a public defender who really didn't want the case anyways. My point is that justice is truly, in the broader scale of things, only available to those who can afford it. And sadly, that's the state of affairs that we, the people, need to figure out how to correct, along with the way the prisons operate.
And how many of the J6ers that we know have spent thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on attorneys that didn't help them one bit? I know several of them have told me that going pro se, which is defending yourself, is a better way to go, for a couple of reasons. One, you don't have to spend your life savings or money that you don't even have. And the other reason is that you get some special dispensation from the courts because of the fact that you're representing yourself. Now, that's a pretty big thing to take on. You got to have a lot of courage, to go do that. But I've heard many of them say that they had either wished they'd done it. Dominic Box is going pro se, isn't he, at this point? I think he said he has an attorney, or had one, but he's really running the show. And yeah, so that's exactly what and it goes back to Marcus Allen and the other FBI whistleblowers. They're trying to bankrupt them, is what they're trying to do. They're charging them with things. They're making them have to defend themselves. Every time you show up in court, we watched the Flynn movie again last night. If you haven't seen the Flynn movie, Michael Flynn's movie, same story. Is what they're trying to do there is bankrupt you into submission, make you spend all your life savings, make you gather money from whoever you can to try to put up these defenses, and it will eventually wear you out. So, yeah.
How did we get here? Our forefathers will be rolling over in their collective graves. We're talking about justice is only available to those who can afford it. It's an economic war against the defendants. This lawfare thing. How does that measure up against the spirit of the Constitution? There's this due process clause, and there's a lot of articles that fall underneath it, and there's other things going on, but the reality is there's this chasm that has taken place, and you may recall a number of months ago, our friend Taylor Janatakis read something, and he titled it "Remember," and you can find this on our website, folks. And he points out in that little write-up, and I don't want to try to go after it word for word, but the bottom line is he says there is no common law; it's all corporate law. And he made the point well. But we've got other guys that went pro se, Mark Brew, who beat 1 or 2 out of 9 charges against him. Wasn't enough to keep him out of. We got a call.
Xin chào, đây là một cuộc gọi trả lời Nếu chấp nhận cuộc gọi điện thoại này, nhấn không. Nếu từ chối cuộc gọi này, nhấp kết nối điện thoại hoặc nhấn 1. Xin chào, đây là một cuộc gọi trả trước từ.
What number you usually push?
An inmate at the Washington, D.C. Central Detention Facility. Nếu chấp nhận cuộc gọi điện thoại này, nhấn không. Nếu từ chối cuộc gọi này, nhấp kết nối điện thoại hoặc nhấn 1. Tài khoản hiện tại của bạn là $77.50 1. Cuộc gọi này đã được gọi từ một cơ sở trại giam và có thể bị giám sát và ghi âm. Cảm ơn bạn đã sử dụng dịch vụ Global Health Link.
Hello, this is Cheryl from Northern
Hey,
Neck.
how's it going? This is Joseph.
Hey, Joseph.
Hey, how you doing? We had to navigate through some Vietnamese language there or something. I didn't know. I just started pressing buttons.
We have to,
Oh, yeah.
we have to
No,
get
that's all
our
right, that's all
dictionary.
right. Me and Johnny usually call the 855 slot here in DC, and that's our favorite one to choose.
All right, cool. Great.
We love it as a global link.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, can you get any closer to the mic? Like,
Yeah, can you hear me?
yeah, we hear you. We hear you. Thanks.
All right. Oh man, so how y'all been doing? How's it going over there?
It's going all right. It's going all right. Your timing is great. We were talking about a lot of different subjects. You're a first caller, so welcome. Joseph, what's your last name?
Is this Hutchison?
It's Hutchinson, yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks. Yeah, how are things for you today?
Pretty good. We got our visit today, and I got to see some family members in Lakeland, and tomorrow we're doing our family visit. Supposedly they've got like pizza and hamburgers and nachos and stuff. So we're hoping that's actually it'll be like the first time any of us have had pizza in like a year.
Wow. Wow. That's great.
So
Hope the weather
that'll be
stays.
hopefully a real fun experience. Just to spend time with our families that we haven't seen in quite some time, you know, like and actually hung out with. So they're giving us a 3-hour visit or something like that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So as they were saying before, this is for your pod only, correct?
Yeah, it's so they do it for like every pod in the jail, but it's just our turn. So yeah, it'll be just us there because you know we're on protective custody, so it'll be just us, and we'll be in the gym. I guess is what they're saying, but we'll be with all the different families, so that'll be really neat. So I think there's like 6 or 7 of us going, so we'll have 6 or 7 G6 families that are going to hang out together. So yeah, it'd be cool. Get to meet new people, get to meet the families of the men we've been hanging out with for the last few months, you know?
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds really good. So you've got some family coming. How many are coming for you?
I have 2 cousins coming. I was supposed to have my older sister and my younger sister, but their job wouldn't let them come, you know, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was political, but she told them what it was for, and her boss, she said, is, you know, liberal and gay, and she wouldn't let her off. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's, you know, I guess it's probably why, unfortunately, but.
Yeah, well.
So.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy day in DC tomorrow. There's a big event tomorrow on the mall, right? Isn't that?
Is it tomorrow or the next day?
It would be tomorrow.
Maybe you're right.
Saturday.
Maybe you're right. It's Sunday. That's right.
They do that on a Sunday?
Yeah, I thought it was, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't know, what's it for exactly? What's the rally for?
Oh, there's a lot of great speakers and so on coming in, but it's just again, it's I've lost the name of it at the tip of my tongue, but I knew it was going to be quite a few people, and they're expecting really large crowds. So anyway, that's good. I'm glad it's not the same day. Maybe your people can get in and out without any problems. So what time do y'all do?
Yeah.
What time is that starting? Is it in the afternoon then or something?
It's 10 a.m. tomorrow until 1.
Okay.
So if it is tomorrow, I guess they'll probably get there before the crowds get too big, hopefully. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I hope everyone stays vigilant. I know it's supposed to be a conservative rally, and we know how that goes sometimes. So.
Right. Well, good. So, any new happenings in the pod? You got any new people come in, or anybody leave of late? We know maybe
Yeah,
one.
well, we had James Grant leave, of course, because he got sentenced the other day, and I heard he went to Philly and he's out now, so he's got time served. So that's awesome. We're glad that he got to go home and be back, hopefully back with his family or whoever he has on the outside. But new people, they're still not bringing them in. I don't understand. They stuck us, so they tried to take away our involuntary protective custody, and then they put it back, but they haven't brought Jeremy Brown up here. I believe I heard there's a guy named William Dunphy down there.
and so they're still segregating us and keeping us from the other J6ers for whatever reason, even though they put our involuntary protective custody back. So.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. We got to try to work on that. I want to try to get some, some correspondence out. There's another gentleman that I met last week. His name is Rockney Earls.
I found it, by the way.
And he had a plea deal agreement, a sentence or a hearing, and he was remanded into custody. So we believe he's down there as well, waiting to go somewhere. So hopefully he gets to get in with you guys if he's going to spend any time there.
Yeah, no, that's what we told him. I tell the case manager every time I see her about the different names that we know down there. We know Atwood wants to come back. He's in SMU. And I heard, I don't know, I just heard secondhand that someone tried to stab him. And I was like, well, maybe he should be back in here, but they just won't bring him back up. So I don't know what their deal is, but I'll keep asking them, keep telling them. I told the case manager, I'm like, if we're back in involuntary, then they should be on involuntary, and they should be up here with us. So I don't understand what the big deal is. So
yeah, I'll tell you his name again, Rockney, like Rockne, kind of weird first name, Earl, E-S, Earls, Rockney Earls. So he's one.
Rockney Earls.
Yep.
I'll let her know, but she doesn't necessarily have a say. The only thing she said she can do is let the warden know. But it's the warden who's not. She said all she has to do is hit a button and they'll send them over here, and she's just refusing to. So I guess I wasn't here in 2021, but apparently this warden didn't like us very much, and that's who they got back over here now.
Okay.
I think her name's Mar, M-A-R-R.
All right.
So, but other than that, I mean, things are going pretty good. Getting quiet around here. I think there's only like 12 of us left, maybe between 12 and 13, somewhere around there. And so we got, which is good. I mean, I don't want people to be in prison, but it's getting low around here.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is a good sign. It's good, working in the right direction. But but it's just nice that you guys have had that ability to get together and support one another. So hopefully we can get those other guys in there with you.
Yeah, but praise the Lord. He's good to us in here. That's I know I heard stories that was before we got here and what all the older guys had to put up with. So I know it could be much worse. So I'm grateful that it is the way it is, and hopefully we get those other guys in here and they can be in here and not have to deal with the other kind of people in this jail. I mean, they're not bad people, but they're they're different. I mean, it's just how it is. But
Joseph,
yeah.
This is Cheryl. Just wanted to clarify that you are going for sentencing in a couple weeks, October 15th. Is that still on?
So I can say so I'm pro se, and I put in a motion of continuance, and we're supposed to be going to trial on October 15th. But just recently, I've been given the ability to actually properly review my discovery and the ability to message my standby counsel to even, get any sort of information and whatnot, and have them actually kind of help me out getting, different laws and statutes and everything sent to me. And so really, I haven't had enough time to prepare. So hopefully we can get that pushed back. But as of right now, it's still October 15th.
Okay. Keep track of that.
Yeah, we got that. So I know we don't want to talk too much about your particular case, but how long have you been there, and why are you only getting discovery now?
Okay, so I've been here for, which I filed a motion. It's probably on the docket if anyone wanted to look at it, but I've been here for almost 9 months, or right at 9 months. About 5 months ago, they got me a flash drive, and then for the last 4 months, I've had 4 computers break. That just the hard drives gave out. 2 of them, the batteries stopped working. And the crazy part is the standby counsel I have offered this jail new laptops that they bought specifically for January 6 cases. and the jail will not let them come in. And they said they can retrofit them however they want, to comply to their rules, but they just won't take them. So I don't,
They can't.
Interesting.
I know
Wow.
that they can't.
Wow.
because I guess they've had the same standby counsel that I have. That firm has worked with Brandon Fellows and some of the other guys in here. So.
Well, we were just talking about those of you that have decided to go pro se, and I got my hats off to you. I know it's got to take a lot of courage to go ahead and do that, but did you have any representation before and made the decision to go pro se, or you just did that right from the beginning?
Yeah, so I had a lawyer in the very beginning, and he seemed real on fire. We spoke with him, and I told him some stories of January 6th, and he was like, "Wow, that's crazy." He's like, "I talked to 5 other J6ers. I was in Georgia at the time, and he's like, they gave me the same stories." And he goes, "And y'all don't know each other." He's like, "So those are corroborating stories." You know what I mean? We said the same thing, having never met each other. And about the events that took place and how certain things happen, right? And so he was real on fire. He's like, "Yeah, we're going to fight this thing and this, that, and the other." And then we get, as we're building up for trial, he waived my speedy trial right, which he said we had to do, which I found out we didn't have to do for, I think, 120 days before he even got discovery. You know what I mean? And he just really wasn't super effective, and he didn't file motions, so I asked him to file and these other things. So I ended up firing him October of, I think, 2022, and then became pro se. And I've been pro se ever since. So.
Gotcha. All right. Cool. Well, good luck on your continuance there. I hope that goes through for you. So what's?
But I feel like probably the J6ers have probably the highest number of probably like pro se defendants and percentages. Like half the guys in here right now. So our Purdy went pro se, Brian Smith was pro se, Dennison, who left, was pro se. A lot of the J6ers seem to be, opting for pro se, which is probably a very interesting trend. I'm sure it doesn't happen in a lot of different criminal, proceedings,
Yeah, and we were discussing earlier the amount of money that people have spent, and not gotten very good representation whatsoever. So it's not just about the money, but it's about the quality of the representation and the whole system. So, yeah, very.
Yeah, like I said, you can't do any worse than guilty on all charges.
Right. That's right.
Which seems to be a trend also.
Yeah, that's a pretty common outcome for sure. Yeah. Well, great. Hey, Joseph, I don't know, the last time we've spoken, if at all, it's probably been a long time.
3 months.
Tell me where you're from and a little bit of background on you, if you care to.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, it's been quite a while. It's been probably a few months. But I'm from Florida, there in Lakeland, and I was a mechanic. Worked at a gun store, and I did the gun store work for about 4 years. The mechanic work I did mainly for myself for a while, but then once I got up,
Bạn có 1 phút còn lại.
once I got put on house arrest, I did that for about the 3 years I was on house arrest doing small engine work, and me and my co-defendants, there's 5 of us, we're all Christians. We came up with the church, and the rest is history. But man, that was a fast 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was. It really was. I'm not sure if it was.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So your Give-Send-Go number is, you have that handy?
Oh, yeah. It's I don't know the number, but it's called Father of a Damned Sick Son. That's the Give-Send-Go name.
All right. Cool. We'll get it out there. We'll get it out there for you.
All right. Yep. Thank y'all, and God bless.
God bless you too. Thanks for calling, Joseph.
Yep. You too. Or thank you for letting me call.
All right. Bye.
Cảm ơn bạn đã của Global Health Link.
All right, so Cheryl obviously is up on this because you must have been watching some of the other DC vigils. I did not know they had switched over to a foreign language on the Global Tel Link. prompts.
Kind of funny.
Well, it's not just funny, it's not a mistake. Don't you think it's something that was meant to mess people up?
It does.
There's a lot of things that are deliberate, like the separation of just putting the new enrollees in general population versus the other ones. That's not an accident. I think it's kind of obvious. If I was the warden and if I was the people in charge of the lives of these J6ers, I would want them to stop calling. I would, because it's just bad publicity for them. But you can't make them stop without making it look really, really bad. So what you do is you simply deplete the population. You got one group that's going to end up going away eventually, and then everybody else just goes into general population, and that achieves the goal. Maybe not fast enough, but that's it.
Yeah, and I hope that we know that they're probably listening to some of these calls, not all of them. That they probably don't have the time or patience to do it, but that has been a theme that's come out from a lot of these callers. Is that especially the guys who've been in there in these different facilities and just often by themselves, don't run into any other J6ers, and then they get into that pod and they are welcomed in by these people with open arms, giving them things that they need, giving them commissary, giving them whatever it is, showing them the ropes, helping them out, so it is a really powerful thing that these men have done for one another in there. And I guess you're right, if they could maybe disrupt it, they probably would.
Hello, this is a prepaid call from
Bob Turner.
an inmate at the Washington, D.C. Central Detention Facility. To accept this call, press 0. To refuse this, your current balance is $75.81. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, hello, good evening.
Hey, Bob, is that you?
Yes, sir. How you doing tonight?
We're doing good. We're doing great, actually. Glad to hear from you.
Yes, yes. I have a first look into this.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, who else is out? I'm sorry, we had a little technical difficulty here.
It's Gregory and Uncle Bob.
All right, Greg.
I'm
Great. Hey, Greg. Good to hear your voice, too.
good to hear from you again too. How are you?
We're doing great. Good end of the week here. A little bit of rain and things that we needed out here. So we're just happy. We're talking about the things that are happening in the world with the election upcoming and everything else. And but we're just really happy to hear from you guys and glad we can allow you to get your voices out there. So the floor is yours, guys. Whatever you want to talk about.
I am just so excited. I mean, a month away from the election, that it feels like people are coming together in a positive way. People are getting it, and I feel like it's all love out there, and that makes me more happy than anything.
That's great that you're getting that sense. I mean, how are you getting it? Are you getting it from your conversations with your loved ones, or are you getting it through that limited amount of TV that you get, or what? Or are you just feeling it?
Yeah, I mean, every time I talk to my brother or my dad, they're saying the same thing. They're saying, Gregory, people are getting it. And people are putting aside their differences because they just want what's best for the country going forward.
I think that's a really great observation. I mean, we feel it too. We've been doing a little informal yard sign survey of late, and where we live out here, it's pretty clearly Trump Vance. But even in some of the more liberal areas, you don't see a whole lot of signs from the other side. So I think a lot of people are definitely they're feeling the economic issues and everything else, and they're seeing what's been happening to you guys, what's been happening to Trump, and I think you all are right. There's definitely a growing sentiment of positivity towards that.
Hi, Tom, that is awesome. You said you've been seeing like a ton more yard signs and
Informal, just driving around whenever I do, I notice when I see the signs, and I don't see a lot of the Harris signs. I just don't.
That's what I hear from my father being from New York too. Good thing.
Yeah. So we're rural Virginia out here, you know, and I would say we're fairly conservative, but it's a mix, and but yeah, I mean, come on, think about it. Everybody who's living through this economy has got to realize that this has not been a great 4 years or 3.5 years. So, and you're not gonna get the same. You know, you're gonna continue doing the same and get better results. So I think most people are smart enough to know that.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting because you had 4 years of one person, you had 4 years of another person, and you have to ask Americans, who were you better off with? How are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
Yeah,
That's right.
that's right. So, are you guys participating in the events tomorrow with the visitation and all that?
Yeah, we'll be participating. We don't have family coming because traveling from far away, but they're there in spirit. We get to talk to our family every day from the jail, which we're so thankful for. We didn't even think that was going to be a thing, so we're grateful for that. But we'll be there to support the other guys. It's going to be great to have them see their families, and it's just so long for some of these guys. You know, we've been here a few months, but you know, Johnny, Hutch, you know, here for almost a year. Fox has been here for over a year. It's going to be a really beautiful thing.
You know, these guys are really looking forward to it. I'm happy for them. They're looking forward to seeing the families.
Yeah.
It'll be a great thing.
Yeah, that's great. It's clear to me that there's great camaraderie with you all, and I think it's a very powerful thing. So who's got seniority there at this point? Who's been there the longest?
That's a good question. I think in this specific pod, because they haven't really been bringing people into it, and the other J6ers are in other parts of the jail, but in this specific pod, it's Ball, right? Ball, yeah. He's been here, what, almost 2 years? Yeah.
Daniel Ball, okay. Yeah.
Daniel Ball's got seniority right now.
Yeah, all right. Well, with seniority doesn't come responsibility. He's got to lead the national anthem or do something, right?
He's got a beautiful voice, I'll tell you that.
Hey, you all are getting really good at that. I tell you what, I'm blown away every time we do this. It's just, you guys are just doing really wonderful with it. So my hat's off to you.
You know what? That means a lot because every time we say it, we take it so seriously. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, great.
I like the lights in the room. So I'm not really part of the choir like this anymore, but I do my part.
You flick the lights, huh?
I flick the lights.
That is
Yeah,
fun.
sorry.
That is fun to watch you flick the lights.
How you guys do that as well? Me and Beaver were doing it for a while, and we're trying to get it fixed perfectly, and we're getting really good. And you gotta say, brother, you gotta say, do the light flickering.
Beaver's a nickname for Grant, the one who just released today, I believe. He was here for 32 months between all the jails.
Right.
But you used to flick the lights and do Morse code. You don't do that anymore, though.
You know what? Just for you, we're going to get the Morse code back. Brian will help us with that. Yeah.
Okay. We'll try to figure it out. I'll get my book out.
That's great. Well, of course, you know, we can't see the lights from here. so on Friday, if you're doing it from us, you'll have to rely on the people in DC to decipher what you're saying. But anyway.
Yeah. Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Okay, I guess
That was
we're
it.
done.
All gone.
Thank you for the warning. 7 minutes.
Well, was it? Did we cross a invisible tape line that flicking the lights is not? It's verboten. I don't know.
Oh, maybe I said Morse code.
you imagine what it'd be like to do Morse code?
That could be it though.
Thanks for coming.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have, I didn't know.
No, how would you know? How would you know? But anyway, so I think it'll be interesting if somebody in the jail then has to, one of the COs has to learn Morse code in order to figure out what it is we're not saying to one another, right?
I remember being taught Morse code when I was in the Boy Scouts.
Right.
All those years ago. Cub Scouts, what was it? No, I think the first one was Weeblos. But yeah, Morse code was a thing back then.
Well, let's try it. See, I have a memory from Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts. ...
SOS.
All right. Did I get it right? I
Yes, you
figured
did.
I might have.
3 dots, 3 dashes, 3 dots.
I feel bad I screwed up the call.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine.
They
It'll
used
be
to
fine.
do that in the beginning and then they stopped doing it, I guess.
So, different topic, medical freedom. Yeah, so I read today that the company that manufactures remdesivir is recalling all remdesivir because 53% of the people they gave it to in Africa died. Imagine that. And they were giving it here as a required protocol here in the United States for the fictional infection of COVID. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
So you got to kind of wonder. These are things that make you go home. We've got this network of back scratching good old boys. Just here, let's make a couple $2 billion, and we don't care if people die. We just want the money. So yeah, remdesivir has been recalled because it had a 53% death rate. That's pretty bad. So we all knew this though, right? You know, you can look back during COVID, and anybody that was admitted to a hospital, put on a respirator, they also got the remdesivir at the same time, and they all died. Terrible. So there's I'm just pointing out news that I'm looking at on my screen. So there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, the GMOs, everybody thought, well, oh, it's great. We're going to genetically engineer our food so that it has longer shelf life, less nutrition. And oh, by the way, if you have anything that's even moderately processed, it's been contaminated with all kinds of crap that's going to make you sick and ultimately kill you. If it doesn't just simply make you obese, it will just destroy you.
There were hearings earlier this week, and I saw several great pieces of testimony of folks right along what you're talking about, Maurice. And I guess we shouldn't, to Cheryl's point, we're going to be cautious of, what we say specifically, but for censors. But no, I think that's some really positive stuff because I think a lot of people have known for a while, and that's another thing that I think is really positive. Is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. being part of the Trump campaign. And I think what they're doing in his post that he's putting out and what he's talking about doing and how he's going to go about it, I think it's better for him to talk than it is for Donald in a lot of ways because it comes from a different voice, from a different perspective, and in a way that it's much more coherent, frankly, because I don't mind the way Donald Trump speaks, but some people find it hard. So it's an interesting, dichotomy.
So, I agree with you. And trust me, folks, I've come to actually love the way Donald Trump speaks. So don't get me wrong here. And I'm not necessarily looking at it from the perspective that he sounds better. But if you're the team leader, in this case, we're talking about Trump, and you've got all of those folks, just the first ones on the shelf are, you've got Tulsi, you've got Vivek, you've got JD, you've got let them speak their portion of the mission themselves. Because they're the ones that are going to be in charge of it, right? Donald Trump's going to be signature authority. Everybody else actually has to do the work. So let them speak to it. And that's a good strategy. That's a totally good strategy. Speaking of that strategy, speaking to things, I was reading the rules for the CBS debate between J.D. Vance and whatever the guy's name is, Wolves.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but notice that CBS reserves the right to turn off the microphones. Well, there's the censorship right there. If it's uncomfortable for CBS, nobody else gets to see or hear it. That's just wonderful.
Didn't they have that same rule in the Harris-Trump debate, but they didn't use it?
Right, exactly. They had that rule, but they didn't use it. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I don't know why, if you're going to have dialogue, you're going to have dialogue. Sometimes it gets heated. Leave the microphones on. We're grown-ups here. We can take it.
It's one thing to turn off your microphone like they do at school boards when, not that I agree with it, but once you've hit your time and you've exceeded your time limit, I mean, you can kind of see why they have those sorts of rules.
Yeah, that's a Robert's Rules thing.
Yeah, but in a debate where you're there for the purpose of letting the American people hear your platform and your opinions, doesn't make sense.
Only as long as the mainstream media likes what you're saying.
Right.
They're hanging themselves. Seriously, they're just destroying themselves.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Hey, everybody. I know Maurice has probably been saying hi to y'all, but thanks again for joining. Good to see some of you guys. Jericho, great to see you there. And this is a crazy time. I can't believe the Vietnamese language that they're using?
It's something from Asia.
Yeah, well.
I'm not fluent in any of it, so I can't tell you which one it is. Cantonese? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, did you find out what the event is on Sunday?
No, I couldn't find it. I just typed in the date at DC and it didn't pop up.
Yeah.
Didn't you speak about it weeks ago?
We did. We talked about it. I spoke about it at our.
So what this tells me is that we need younger people up here so that they don't have so many senior moments.
Yeah. I might even have it here. Did you pull up the NPR site and did you find out the number of new arrestees last week?
Yes, there were 5.
5 new.
5 new ones last week.
Can we give them a shout out, Maurice, if you want?
Yeah.
Tell a little bit about them.
So let me clear my search string.
While he's doing that, this is NPR database. Just go to your search engine, type in NPR J6 weekly update every Friday afternoon. Tells you any of the changes of status of people's sentencing or case updates. But it also gives you a quick and easy at the top of the page. Thank you, Cheryl. Rescue the Republic is what we were talking about for Sunday.
Sunday is Rescue the Republic.
But yeah, so Maurice is going to read off the arrestees from last week.
So we got 5 of them. I'm sorry, there's 5. A couple of ladies and some guys. Wendy Domensky from Buffalo, New York, charged with entering and remaining in a restricted building or grounds, disorderly or disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds, disorderly conduct in a Capitol building, parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building. Daryl Wayne from South Dakota, he's got a little bit longer sheet here. Civil disorder, assaulting and resisting or impeding certain officers. Oh, this is the charge that you were talking about. Why, yes, we're going to do something that's got a long... anyways, then once we get through that charge that Tom was talking about earlier, it's the standard fare. Damian Johnston of Green Bay, Wisconsin, entering or remaining in a restricted building or grounds, disorderly or disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds, disorderly conduct in a Capitol building, there's only one, parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building. Christina Marie Pracer Fair, I'm sorry. Again, knowingly entering or remaining in a restricted building or grounds, disorderly conduct, etc., just like the last one that I read. And it's funny, you look at this screen and it's like they just cut and pasted all of these. It's just hilarious. Tracy Quimby from Buffalo, New York. Again, entering and remaining in a restricted building, disorderly or disruptive conduct in a restricted building or area. And that is the extent of it for this week. There was just 5. That's a good thing. I shouldn't say it that way. There's 5 victims of the system.
I heard you say the word just. That was a qualifier. It's just 5.
But there's no justice to it. It's terrible.
So the Rescue the Republic thing is on Sunday from noon to 7 p.m. And all you all out there that don't live in or around DC, you know, if you already made plans, you know, if you already knew about it, you made plans, you're not going to probably just roll on down there. But so there are 8 pillars to this event. War is always the last resort. So war versus the military-industrial complex. Sanctify, recodify, informed consent versus the medical-industrial complex. Banish state media control, surveillance and propaganda versus the censorship-industrial complex. Enact a rational border policy versus the immigration-industrial complex. End lawfare and abuse of the judicial system versus injustice industrial complex. There's a lot of complexes here. Secure monetary freedom versus the finance industrial complex. Restore family sovereignty versus the developmental industrial complex. And return to truth-seeking dialogue versus the academic industrial complex. Ooh, that's a good one.
You know, I think it's wonderful. Karl Marx would be so proud that we've managed to develop so many industrial complexes.
So, just for folks, I mean, again, I don't think anybody's going to run on up there if you didn't already have it in your sights, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr., number 1. Russell Brand, if you don't follow him, he's very interesting. Dr. Jordan Peterson, Tulsi Gabbard. That's probably just the star makers, and then there's way more than that that's going to be there as well. So
I just sent you Trump's new ad that was just sent to me by Robert Quaglin. He's doing well.
yeah, all right. Shout out to Chris Quaglin's father, Robert, who's going through some health issues, and sounds like he's all right.
He just sent me an ad. So
Well, he's texting you, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wish I had an easy spreadsheet to know exactly when these guys have called and, you know, when we last talked to them. But so there's got to be a few, though, that they mentioned that I don't think we've spoken to, and I don't know if they speak at all, individuals. That may be the case. Do you have a sense for who they are, and are you writing all of them, and do you talk about that kind of thing, or?
I haven't written to the new guys. I haven't written to the new guys. I see them when I look on Patriot Mail Project. I see their names, but according to the guys, they haven't been up yet, or whether they're still in outtake. Where are they? Intake.
Right.
Outtake, intake. So, but there are quite a few of them.
I think that's something I want to do too, is to reach out to those guys, and because again, they got to be feeling a little bit out of it.
Yeah.
So I want to just see if anybody can it's pretty self-explanatory. Do you think, Maurice?
It is. I get it. Right off the bat.
But it's not maybe as outlandish or in your face to some people, but
Right.
So the outlaw being the how many times charged, well, charged with lawsuits is Donald Trump. And then the hillbilly, which I have, and I haven't had a chance to crack that thing open and read it yet. Have you guys looked at that? Do you know what's the story behind it? Is it his life story of from rags to
I got a synopsis. I don't know if I can do it justice, but several weeks ago I got a synopsis of it, probably actually a couple of months. But it talks about his upbringing and how literally dirt poor, with dirt on the floor, really rough, and he managed to pull himself up. He did what a lot of guys do. He went in the military. That's a really good way to get your footing and kind of stand on your own. He did the thing. He actually is the American dream. This is how you do it. So it's a good story. He went through, when you're born on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum, you see things growing up that may not be pretty. There's drugs, there's incidental violence, there's bad habits that your parents may or may not have, and you grow up, obviously. It's just the synopsis is great. So if I don't have the book, I want it. Hillbilly Elegy.
I get so many books, but you read online.
I've got a stack of books. I mean, again, I keep plugging this Justice Denied book, which is just, again, the similarities between what's happening to the January Sixers and what happened to this gentleman, Howell Woltz. It's just uncanny. Yeah. And so a lot of the books I've gotten have been recommended by J6ers, which is another interesting thing that several of these guys really, recommend various things to look at. Able to keep educating themselves and expanding their minds inside the jails. And it's a theme that we hear from a lot of the guys, even that you correspond with, or I do a little bit, not so much as you, in the BOP system, where they're trying to read as much as they possibly can. They're trying to improve themselves. Take this time and make the most of it. And I'm really excited to see what happens with some of these individuals when they do get out and get their footing and get their life started again. It's going to be amazing to watch, and I hope we can follow them for a long time, and I hope we can help them in whatever way they need it.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Caitlin Merva. Tom had given me a book last week called MAGA Mouse. You go on the website magamouse.com, and it's a really cute little book there. And I reached out to her to see if I could use some of her illustrations and some of the letters that I sent out to the guys. And she actually knew who I was, but I never knew who she was until Tom gave me the book last week. But go to magamouse.com, and the cute little book with a little mouse and a story behind it. And it's you could order it online. And the J6ers, we're going to see a few pictures in the next newsletter.
Oh, that's great. Awesome.
Got permission.
Yeah, good thing you got permission. Oh, really? Yeah, okay.
Because I was wondering who Cheryl was. Now I know. I didn't know it. It was being passed around.
It's okay.
All right, Dominic, come on, call.
Well, 15 minutes, so they'll probably wait a few so that we can get in one more call.
So one of the people doing the testimonies about the food, and everything, a gal by the name of Vannie Harris,
Yes.
Food Babe. She's a powerhouse, a real powerhouse. And I started following her, and she's got some really good information.
Repeat her name again.
It's Vannie Harry. I said it wrong the first time. Vannie Harry is the Food Babe.
And she's kind of the one that's got really a lot of passion in her voice, and she raises her voice, and
She's outraged, very outraged. I captured some of her stuff today on X, and she's got it all figured out. You know, a month or so ago, I was talking about how, the nutritional content of the food has been going down in such a way that if your body requires, for example, a meal, 2,400 calories worth of energy, in order to get the nutrition content, the vitamins, the minerals, and all that, that used to be in the food in 1964, the density of the nutrients in your food. Today, in order to get the same measure of nutrients in your food, you need to eat 3,300 calories. So that's where we're at with the genetically modified foods. When you engineer your food for a longer shelf life, you end up sacrificing nutritional quality. But it helps the corporations make money.
Well, again, that whole food pyramid was a lie. It was a fabrication.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that came out of that whole series, I think, or something related to it, was that a lot of the people that were in the tobacco industry, once the lawsuits and basically the tobacco industry kind of took a nosedive, they started buying up food processing and food distribution outlets, and those same scientists that they sent them over there to figure out how to make the foods more addictive, like cigarettes, etc. And some of those scientists were the highest paid, working for the tobacco firms, and now they're with the food industry.
So you just hit something that I had forgotten about. Cheryl knows that I get on about carbs. But I read an article a number of years ago about how those very same scientists that you just mentioned were using modified carbohydrates to enhance the addictive quality of the things that you find in the middle aisles in the grocery store. So yeah, it's a thing. It's a bad thing, and unfortunately, in the densely packed cities, the average person can't grow their own garden and actually expect to survive on it. So that's kind of a problem. The average person, I did this research, so it takes approximately 5 acres to feed one person for a year. Now you can densely pack your stuff. We've seen places where you can get that same performance out of a 1/4 acre, but the problem is that once you densely pack it like that, you end up with a situation where you're much more sensitive to failures and catastrophic failures to your garden. So, and it takes 5 acres to feed a cow for 1 year. So if you just did that, anyhow, it takes some soil surface in order to grow food. And in the cities, they're significantly vulnerable to food shortages. The rest of us out here, she died just shy of 103 years old. She said that my aunt, the Depression, where she was growing up, nobody knew about it until someone told them that it had already come and gone, because they didn't care. They had a mule-drawn cart, even though there were cars around. All their food came from the land that they lived on, and they only went to town once every 2 months or so, and they bought what they needed and went home. And so they never really experienced the Depression, even though to this day the Depression is marketed as the worst thing that ever happened to humanity. And I'm sure if you lived in the cities, it was. But out there in what we now call the flyover country, no, it wasn't quite so bad. Other topics. North Carolina removes 130,000+ dead people from their voter rolls. That wasn't the total number. That was just one category, the number of people that they removed from their voter rolls, for a grand total of 747,000 bad names on North Carolina's voter rolls. Can you imagine that? That's 1 million people. I don't know what the population is of North Carolina. I could look it up, but right now I'm trying to keep the stream going. I'm seeing here that Jovan Pulitzer writes a lot about growing food too. And yeah, anyways, so the population of North Carolina is not so huge that 747,000 removals from their registration list isn't significant. That's at least 10% of that state's population.
Yeah, those are big numbers in the aggregate, and if you look at the numbers where each of these states was won by Biden, these things would more than offset it. To your earlier point about the mail-in versus the early voting, that's why they're sending all these mail-in ballots out there, so that they can use what they need to in order to make the totals work. So I agree with you. Get out there and vote early. Get it done. Get your name done, and go from there.
You know, Liz Dickinson, I love it every time she comes to work with us. That whole notion, she said, you know, you got to get used to it. The mail-in is probably going to be okay after a while. You got to clean up the post office. But her point is well made. You know, a lot of us are traditionalists. We vote on election day. And her point is that, well, we've been losing so much that they've been in positions of power to change the rules of the game, and they've done that. We have to play by the rules of the game in order to get the job done. We can send it back to the way it's supposed to be, but until we take over, the rules are what they made them. And we need to play within those rules and use them.
That's a great point, Maurice.
Hello, this is a prepaid call from
Dominic Fox.
an inmate at the Washington, D.C. Central Detention Facility. To accept this call, press 0. Your current balance is $74.90. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Well, hello, Northern Neck.
Hey, Dominic.
Hey, Dominic.
Hey, how are you? I can't. You guys are coming through loud and clear. I want to apologize. You know, I hopefully none of you all have ever been to the D.C. Department of Correction, but they give us these really interesting tablets that aren't really worth their weight in salt as far as communication goes. We've been trying for the last 20 minutes to get through on the phone dialer to call you guys, and you have to restart it, hard reset it, hold it the right way, pray to the sun god, and all this interesting stuff. But eventually it comes through. But in any case, I apologize for the delay, but it's good to talk to you guys again tonight. Is John there?
No, he couldn't make it. He's working on some deadlines.
About football again, but guys, it's an exciting weekend here at the DC jail. We've got, as I'm sure you guys heard, we've got Family Reunification Day, which is a really cool
really cool setup. You know, definitely in my experience, one of the only, you know, I went to a couple places on my way here, and I've never heard of something like that. Definitely the result of progressive policies here in DC, so we're happy about that. A lot of our families flew in yesterday. I haven't heard of anybody having any trouble with the hurricane. I don't know, is it Helen or Helene? What are they calling it?
Helene.
Helene. Well, thankfully, you know, as far as I know, everybody's family has made it in. I got to see my mother today to visit, and then I know some of the guys have their wives and children, their mothers and some of their kids. It's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow. I'm excited about that. You know, get to see my mom again in a much more longer format than I have in, you know, an extremely long time. And then for some of the guys to be able to have a little more of a relaxed atmosphere with their kids, I think it's going to be really exciting, and I'm very thankful about that. So it'll be cool. It'll be a cool experience. They've got medication coming in right now, so it gets a little loud. I'll apologize. But yeah, you know, guys, it's been an interesting week here. One of my closest friends throughout this process, and somebody that the Northern Neck community knows well, Mr. James Grant, not only left the facility here, but as of yesterday was released from Philadelphia. So we are ecstatic for him. He, you know, never, in my mind, never should have had to go and do this whole diesel therapy situation and get out there. But the important thing is he is home, and based on what I know, the last of the Northern Neck crew has left. But not giving up the vigil and continuing to shine a spotlight on this J6 experience, and it means a lot to myself and the other guys to still continue to have not only this outlet to share our story, share our concerns, but ultimately, to know that you guys are continuing to pray and support us in so many ways. We love the letters that we get, share all the books and everything that you guys do, and just keeping in contact with our families, and sharing the Northern Neck Sentinel. I saw this week, it looked like, I didn't get a total count, but it looked like, and I know now just by looking around, the pod is full of the Northern Neck Sentinel. So your message and your community has grown and continues to grow, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Fantastic, all of it. Yeah. Well, we're appreciative of you guys calling us, and we want to be here for you, and we want to give you your voices. So we'll keep on doing it as long as there's a need to do it. So you can count on that.
That's awesome. Hopefully the J6 need is not too much longer. I think we're just over 3.5 months away from President Trump returning to the White House. But anything can happen, and there's always a cause. There's always something, and I look forward to the day that I get to meet you guys in person as well. But I do have some updates on my case that I'd love to share with you guys. But we are about to start the anthem here, so as I do every week, it continues to be my honor to carry you guys through the anthem. So if you give me just 1 minute, we'll be back.
All right.
All right.
You always hear his voice, just stands out.
Three, two, one. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the pale awesome is right.
All right. I love it. Still better than the Dixie Chicks.
That's right.
You guys are great.
Well, I love it, guys. And so, look, I mentioned I had some case updates, and on Monday, which is the 23rd, the government was compelled to respond to our, again, motion to dismiss the 1612 obstruction charge. And after my attorney filed roughly 140 pages over 2 separate filings, the government took the entire 6 weeks they were granted, up until literally the final hour, to file a 2-page offer to dismiss, provided the court would go ahead and enter a verdict of guilty on all my other charges and immediately proceed to sentencing, which, I'm not an attorney. I read a lot of John Grisham books, and I've, consulted with my attorney. It seems like the government is attempting to coerce the judge into rendering verdicts in order to get a motion to dismiss. Now, the judge decided that, hey, there's some questions about that. We need to have a hearing to determine why. If you're going to take that 6 weeks, you decided, you still have not moved to dismiss. And there are now some legal questions about whether or not, because my only other felony charges, aside from the 1612, were the 231 civil disorder charges. And there is now a legal argument being made that without an additional felony charge, like an assault or, seditious conspiracy or something else, that the 231 civil disorder charge can't stand on its own. So now, almost 4 months removed from charge to determine how they're going to respond to our argument that the 231 can't stand on its own. So, who knows? It sounds like it's possible. What I do appreciate is that my judge has, I've heard horror stories, and considering all the arguments that are presented. So, though it would be nice to, know with some finality where things are, I'm confident that my attorney continues to advocate in my best interest, and it seems like the court is giving thoughtful deliberation to everything, and that's really all we can ask for. So we'll see. It would be great to be out of here. President Trump was in the city that I call home, Savannah, Georgia, the other day, and though I myself wasn't able to be there, I was able to talk to some friends who were on the ground there in Savannah, some people that I hadn't heard from in a long time, and they really made me feel like I was there. And that was nice. I got to watch the rally on television, and whether I get out tomorrow, January, or whenever God decides to let me out, I know that I'm exactly where I need to be in this moment. And the numbers, every week, it seems like people are leaving. Not a lot of people are coming in. But whether there's 2 of us left or 200, we're going to continue to keep the spirit alive, keep our traditions alive, and continue trying to honor those that came before us and those that are waiting on us outside.
Well, listen, I'm glad you got a response anyway. I just read an article today about the government coming up with another charge from the Civil War, 18 U.S.C. 372. Which was a statute that made it punishable up to 6 years for folks that intimidated officers of the United States from their posts. This was a Civil War era charge.
Wow.
So I don't know, that's one maybe we can get you offline, get you some more information about that, but hopefully they don't bring that one up on you.
Somebody else actually mentioned that today, and I would love any additional information about that. Our friend Vitaly, who's deaf, showed me on his tablet that his friend has sent him that. And it's really, we know at this point that they'll do whatever they can to, make us out to be whatever they want to call us, and to keep us in jail or in prison for as long as possible. And it's really, just seeing this from this perspective, it's really interesting to watch what appears to be the death throes of a dying deep state machine. I'm not going to say everybody in the Department of Justice is corrupt, or even most of them, but those that are in a position to make the decisions and how long they're keeping people incarcerated and how long this process is taking. I was charged. God, there's still an individual here that's been here for 3 years without a resolution of the case. I was initially charged in December 2022 after the FBI initially came to see me in February 2021. Here we are, leading into 2025 without a resolution. And it's like Steve Bannon, like some of these other people say, the process really is the punishment. And, the good news is, like I try to talk about, when I bring this up, is, they have taken my liberty. They have taken my ability to move around with freedom to the places that I want. But what they've not been able to do is take my freedom. They've not been able to take my ability to strengthen my mind, strengthen my spirit, strengthen my body physically. And they've not been able to take my spirit more than anything. You eventually get into this routine where you're used to the loud noises. You're used to being, just as an example, we've been promised all month that they were going to bring the hair clippers to us because of our family day tomorrow. In fact, we even promised that again today. And here we are at almost 10 o'clock at night. There are no clippers. We know we're not going to get them in time for family day. I mean, it's just, you kind of, and I hate to, I don't want to complain, but you get in the routine of things. But ultimately, as long as we can keep, even, keep faith as small as a mustard seed, that things are going to get better, that God is going to move his hand throughout this process. I truly believe that the miracles can happen and that they are happening. I have made a network of friends and patriots from around the country that I never would have met, that I never would have been exposed to. I've been given the opportunity. I think my count now is 62 books. I've read 62 books. I went from several months ago, about 6 months ago, not even being able to do 25 push-ups, to now doing anywhere from 300 to 500 a day, working out for a minimum of an hour a day, getting myself physically, mentally, and emotionally stronger. And, again, whether I walk out of here,
you have 1 minute remaining,
or whenever that time is, I know I'm going to be a better person when I walk out than when I walked in. And, so at the end of the day, we're winning, and I'm not the only one that continues to find those wins. So again, guys, my name is Dominic Fox. It's an honor to still be a part of this January 6th community. I'm excited to see all my friends and their families tomorrow. Again, thank you so much to the Northern Neck Patriots. If anybody out there is interested in looking at some of my writings and case updates, you can check me out on GiveSendGo at givesendgo.com/freedomj6. I believe my Rumble account's still active. It's Chatham Free Press. And again, guys, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I look forward to talking to you again next week. And my friend Don Bawelis is looking at me right now. He's still here too. He appreciates the support. And God bless you guys. God bless America. Save the cats and dogs. Vote Trump ban 2024.
Thank you. God bless you, Tom. And 2 weeks from now is our 2-year anniversary. So we look forward to talking to you then too.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be sure to call back. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Save the cats and dogs. That's funny.
All right.
So Mark's thinking about,
Shall we turn this up? Hey, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. And as always, support these people. What a wonderful group of folks. And they really out of the ability to call out here, not only here, but of course every night at DC and elsewhere around the country, and all you others who support the J6ers with your live streams, with your letter writing, with your financial support. All of it means so much to them. So thank you very much. Good night.
I understand